But I'm glad you stopped by to talk with me and Jared. So welcome to Dropping the Hammer. I guess first off, Alpha Prime, you guys are coming off a weekend where the number 44 team tied its best finish of the season with 17. So how are you guys feeling right now?
Back to back 17th.
Okay.
Because we had Raja run 17th at Bristol, and obviously Dan and I was able to run pretty good there in Texas, and obviously a hectic race, and we knew it would be. So I would say that team is feeling a lot better than it was earlier this year. I mean, that team's been through a lot. Obviously, anytime you expand, there's going to be struggles here or there. Personnel is the big thing that you're struggling with always. And so it's just finding the right people, the right fit, really. It's not that anybody that we ever hire is unqualified or, an idiot or something like that. I think race teams are pretty quick to point the blame, no different than any other professional sport. It's very quick to point blame at people, but it's just about finding the right fit. And we had a lot of drivers in and out, and it was just kind of chemistry. And then you get down in the points and you got to qualify every week, and any mistake that you make is amplified. And we had a stretch there kind of in the middle of the year where we had drivers making mistakes, we had team making mistakes, and it just punishes you even worse. So we're finally in a spot now where I feel like we're starting to get a little positive momentum and dig out of it a little bit.
All right. So sorry, go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Well, one of the other drivers that it's kind of more of a bright spot with your team has been Ryan Ellis. This year it's kind of been more week to week. I did the interview with him at Road America, been getting a lot of sponsors, and now you're able to get him full time. What does that do with the team kind of securing him full time now? And how is that able to do with getting Ryan Ellis to be now a full time driver than rather just trying to work out these deals to make it work?
Well, I've heard first of all, it's the first time it's ever happened to me where I got a deal done this early. But I've heard from other people how nice it is to be able to have security and be able to kind of plan the team and the people on the team. And really what we do here, guys, over the next few months is no different than like college football recruiting time, where you're looking at personnel, sponsors, drivers, equipment, manufacturers, whatever it is. And you're kind of trying to plan everything of what your next 365 days are going to look like. So, with Ryan being able to get his partners lined up so early, really he had a choice. Like I tell everybody in here, I feel like everybody's a free agent every winter. They can go wherever they want to go. It's my job as an owner to try to make a place that you want them to be. So I feel like the team we've built around Ryan and the job that he's done both inside the car and outside of the car, finding new partners to come in and be excited about NASCAR Xfinity Series racing. I mean, it's fun for us because we get to see these partners get their first experience with it with us and a team that's trying to be better. So I think it's a good fit. I think Ryan's a loyal guy. I'm a pretty loyal guy. I don't really think it was something where he was really trying to shop around very much. I think we both knew that we wanted him back and he wanted to be here, and it was really a pretty easy deal. We really got the whole thing done start to finish in probably about a week.
So how many sponsors have you guys like locked down just for him next year?
Well, he's got a couple primary partners that are going to take the majority of the schedule up there, and then he's got some of those partners that are coming in for a race or two. I'd tell you right now, he's probably got 29 of the races fully committed sponsorship wise. Got a few others that they're trying to decide on what markets they're going to go. So it's going to be a little fewer than what he's had this year as far as like a different scheme every single weekend, which my designer, Ryan Fastana, I'm sure is going to be very happy about. One of the primary partners, Classic Collision, just did a big activation down there at Texas Motor Speedway. We had 100-something people there at the track, and they are so excited about what we're going to be doing for next year. And that's 11 of the races of the 33. So they're basically taking a third of the schedule there. So that'll be a really cool thing to kind of really have an anchor partner for him is really neat.
So aside from Ryan Ellis, have you locked down anything else for driver wise for next year yet?
Like this is the time where there are a lot of conversations happening and we don't have anything else on paper yet.
Well, this won't drop till next week. So you could say something now and it won't get out till next week.
No, I don't think I'm going to have anything done by next week either. There was a time, guys, where like I would have been really nervous about this. Like last year going into the off season, I was a maniac when it came to like really trying to get everything lined up. And I was calling people every day. And I mean, that still happens. Okay. I'm not the one actively out pitching, pursuing, doing whatever I'm doing. I feel like people are calling me now, and that's a good thing. I think that's people have kind of seen the potential in our team, and it's really a credit to the guys in the team and the work that they're doing here. It's taken so long to kind of get rolling this year, but I look at how we're unloading and I look at the speed we've got, and it's a lot more representative of kind of where I felt like we were at the end of last year. So I think there's interest from a lot of different drivers, sponsors, parties. How that all works out, I don't know. I know this. I'm really wanting to prioritize. You know, I feel like the driver I've seen makes such an impact and a level of consistency here. So I'm really looking for people that I feel like, both from a sponsorship standpoint and a driver skill standpoint, are full season type drivers. Like, that's the great thing. I look at Ryan Ellis. He is, we joke around here how steady he is, and consistent. Is he ever going to be the guy that you see light up the board in qualifying? No, probably not. He'd tell you that out of his mouth, but he's a good, clean racer. He's smart. We take him to a road course, qualifies in on time, qualified 20th at Chicago, one of the biggest races of the year. We take him to Kansas, qualifies 22nd at a mile and a half. We take him to a short track, qualifies pretty good. So he's never going to be that like guy that's just, oh my God, you're blown away by the raw speed and talent, but he's a really smart veteran and he gets along great with our crew. And so he's one of those guys that I look at like now, we hear how other people describe athletes in other sports, right? Like, you talk about a 5-tool player in baseball. Like, if you're going to be a full-time driver in NASCAR, you better be a 5-tool player. You cannot just be a short track guy. You cannot just be a super speedway guy. Like, you have to be a guy that can run road courses with big fields. Like, there's no guarantee that I can make of where we're going to be at in the standings for a provisional or something like that, right? Like, we don't know where we're going to be at 6th race of the year. We might be 13th. We might be 37th. So ultimately, the driver's the one that really has to take the responsibility of this and say, look, I'm not worried about where we're at in points. I'm going to qualify in and get done. And there's a level of confidence to that. And there's also a skill level with that, or, whatever. There's plenty of guys out there in the field that on an oval are great, on a road course are bad, and vice versa. And that's great, but they're specialists now. Those are role players now. That's not a person that I'm looking at trying to run a full-time season with. That's somebody that I would be interested in maybe breaking up a schedule, kind of like what we've done before, where we say, okay, maybe a Sage Karam is a real strong road course guy. He's been getting more oval experience. That's something we take a look at. But somebody that's just a road course person, you're not really asking them to come in and try to be a full-time person. You really want somebody that's well-rounded.
All right. I got one question, then I'll let Jared take the next one. So you mentioned all these drivers. So what's it like juggling 11? You've had 11 drivers race for you so far this year. What is it like juggling all those personalities, all those different sponsors, all those different skill sets, just on a week-to-week basis?
It's just harder on the guys more than anything else. I mean, my job when it comes to that is pretty simple, right? Get the business side of this done, make sure that we have sponsorship for a race, make sure that we have a quality driver for a race, make sure that everybody's taken care of on that side. And then really the work happens down there on the floor where they're having to swap seats and get drivers comfortable, and they haven't worked with a crew chief, they haven't worked with a spotter. Maybe a car has a little different feel and they're only getting 20 minutes to figure it out. And so that's what becomes really tough. Like, how do you develop chemistry with somebody that's been in the car with you once and now they're under the gun to make it in qualifying? And, so that's been the toughest part of it. And I see now the value, and you can't really put dollars and cents on it, right? But there's like inherent value in consistency over time. Like, I've seen that with Ellis's performance, where even at times when they've struggled for a few weeks in a row, they're able to kind of lean back on just the team and knowledge and go, okay, you know what, we were doing this earlier in the year, that was working. Let's go back to that. We tried this, that didn't work. Okay, I'm going to focus on qualifying more this week. And you have inherent chemistry over time. And I feel like at the tail end of this year, guys, really that starts paying off a lot more once you're getting to that 15, 20 race mark, and the guys know each other really well. You're quicker on adjustments. You're quicker on information. The race week prep is easier. You're not having to swap seats and stuff. It's the guy's comfortable getting in the car. It feels like it's his car. So he gets down in there and he's ready to be aggressive.
I want to get into some of the meat and potatoes, especially with the charter system going on. A few weeks ago, Spire Motorsports bought Live Fast Motorsports, and there's a lot of other owners, but obviously BJ McLeod has a stake in that. Probably going to reinvest in that Xfinity team. So, kind of first expand upon your comments about no place for small cup teams anymore, and you either have to upscale, partner up, or be gone. And how do you think this kind of more affects from your side of the Xfinity series? Do you think now that, BJ McLeod would restart that second team that they had earlier this year?
I think BJ's happy with where his Xfinity program is right now. He spoke to me about that a few weeks ago, how he felt like it was manageable. It was fun, kind of reminded him of the way it used to be. And look, trust me, there's somebody that's learned that scaling up isn't all what it's cut out to be. It's probably me this year. So I totally understand the feeling. But I think BJ's focused on being quality right now. That's the big thing. He wants quality for his team. He wants speed out of his team. He said that to me on the grid in Texas. We was talking about, us qualifying against each other. And he was like, man, you guys are running really good now. You're kicking my ass. And I laughed and I was like, well, Anthony's good and you guys are good. Like, you'll be fine. He's like, yeah, but I'm really trying to focus on getting this thing like good. And that to me meant a lot, because it's clearly he's focused on really trying to put together a competitive Xfinity team down there. And at times he would say out of his own mouth, he was limited with budget and he really stuck to it. And he knew it was a small team, and he wouldn't, I would say he was trying to get by, not necessarily trying to get better. And I understand. Like, I drove for him during those days. Like, I get it. For me, it's still fun. For me in the car, I still wanted to get in there and achieve all we could achieve. But I understood the limitations that we were working with, right? And I think he did too. I think he's excited about bigger partners, people like Anthony coming in. Now the sale of the team, can he kind of refocus and kind of grind back down? I expect him to still be an open team in the Cup Series next year and run races. I mean, I don't think they're going away, guys. I mean, that's not the impression that I got from it. Now, what does that look like? Is that a real partial schedule? Is that half the schedule? Is that a few races? I don't know. But I mean, the impression that I got there I've been in the shop now a few times over the last couple of weeks, I didn't think that it looked like a fire sale going on in there. Do I see them scaling back? Yeah, but I don't think there's not a for sale sign up there in the yard for the next gen cars. I think they're comfortable still going and running some races.
So just like, sorry, Jared, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So with the Live Fast selling the charter, $40 million, that's a lot of money. So what was your initial reaction when you saw that news that made you want to tweet out what you did about there not being a place for
clearly the field is changing here, right? I mean, you look at, even what Spire's doing now, with the purchase of KBM and the purchase of all this other stuff and the investment they've got now with Cambridge and Andretti now partnering up on this, and what that's even going to look like. They're clearly going to be vertically integrated all the way through this thing, and have their hands in so much stuff in motorsports. I mean, I know what I think NASCAR wants the Cup Series to be, right? So let me just clarify. Nobody has told me this. I just look at kind of the history over time here. That really the Cup Series, it seems like they want that to be a very exclusive club. And what's funny to me is like the charter value is kind of what's creating it, which is something that they've talked about with the RTA, that they really don't want to renew the charter agreement because it's putting a lot more power in the team's hands as far as some of that goes. And, for BJ and his partners like Joe Falk and Matt Tift, I mean, obviously what a great deal, right? You bought into this thing at a time that there were a lot of questions about what the charter agreement would look like, and you wind up looking like heroes, right? I mean, it was probably one of the best investments in the history of NASCAR for how that turned out for him. But ultimately, that's what I see. I mean, even teams like Live Fast at this time, they're having to partner with an RCR on some sort of alliance to get information, to get engines, to get whatever. And so if you're not willing to come into that series with all of the resources and all of the partnerships that it takes in that series, I just don't get the vibe that you're really wanted out there. And BJ has always done things small. So has Joe Falk. They have had small teams that were trying to do it on smaller budgets. And I just know, I don't get the impression that that's what NASCAR wants the Cup Series to be. I think they want teams like Live Fast Motorsports down in the Xfinity Series. Like, I think the steps that Rick Ware is taking now in the Cup Series are the steps that they want to see teams taking, right? And we would have said a couple of years ago that would have been one that was on thin ice, right? But I think there has been a tremendous investment of capital and all this to really try to turn that program into a competitive race team. Now Justin Haley signs with them. Like, I think that's the trajectory they want to see. And I look at what they're doing and even what Spire's doing, and like, let's face facts, guys. Somebody's got to be 36th. Like, it's what this is, you know. Like, Stuart Haas has got 2 cars down there in the outside of the top 30. So somebody's got to be in the 30s. Like, you know, I look at what Legacy is doing now. That those cars were in the dumps, and they have really turned it around. So I look at all this stuff kind of as a bigger scale. And I just go, man, I don't know that a team like mine, or a team like a Johnny Davis, or a team like Mario Gosselin, or, I mean, I don't know what the place is for us at that top level anymore. Like, I'm having conversations with Carl Long all the time. You know, that's a guy that would go do starting parks and all that kind of stuff. NASCAR wants absolutely nothing to do with that anymore. Nothing. And it's been a kind of a weird way of getting there. Like, they thought they were getting rid of it with with just the charter agreement in general, right? Like 36 cars. That didn't really get rid of it, right? You got a lot of extra cars showing up for those extra 4 spots. Like, those spots were full when they were paying them. And now they don't really pay them anymore, at least not very much. And now the next gen cars, so the cost to be in the Cup Series has gone up astronomically. Right? There is no old technology that you're getting. It's all new stuff, and you have to buy it pretty much directly from them. And then you compound that with a charter agreement where it's $40 million to get in, to be guaranteed into the races. Well, who can afford this? Like, there is not a group of people, there's not a group of racers that can afford that. And I look at the owners in the Xfinity Series as people like me, Joey Gase, Mario Gosselin, Johnny Davis, Bobby Dotter, even Sam Hunt, Jordan Anderson. I mean, these are guys that we're racers.
Yeah.
And we still try to raise money, but there's a level of money that I know that I'm just not going to be privy to, and that's not Cup level money anymore.
Jared?
That kind of, yeah, I was about to say, it made me a little bit curious, and you've kind of touched on it there. I know you made mention of the purses in the Xfinity Series, where it's maybe $1 million or $2 million in the Cup Series, or 7 to 8. I was going to ask more, you've expanded, and someone might on the outside say, why not go to the Cup Series if you have like the resources, hauler, team, that type of stuff? Is it mainly just the car and the charter that's keep preventing people to go up in the Cup Series? What are there some other elements that prevent, teams like you to jump up there and make those attempts in the Cup Series to fill out those fields? Because it seems like this year, besides Daytona, it's usually, I think there's only been 2 teams this year that are not connected to a charter team, and that was the Money Racing team and Beard Motorsports.
Yeah, and I would tell you that one of those is barely a team, and the other one shows up for the speedways. So, yeah, what is the participation outside of those 36 cars is very limited, unless we get to a major event like a Daytona 500, a Coke 600, or Jimmy Johnson racing a race or something. You know what I'm saying? Like those Chicago, you had extra cars showing up, but even then, we haven't sent anybody home in the Cup Series outside of Daytona. So what does that mean? I don't know. I know this: the cost of the car itself and the engines, where you have to get them from to be any level of competitive at all, I mean, when I say it's more money, guys, like I can't really express to you how much more money it is. I mean, it's 5, 6 times more money, 7 times more money. I mean, the car itself, by the time you actually put one together, there's probably another update or something that's got to be done. And NASCAR operates that car and that series like everybody that's in it is a Cup team. And they're not worried about them making changes because they got a fab shop and they've got a lot of people and like they can make those changes and they can deal with them, and they might complain about them, but they're going to deal with them quicker. A team like mine is not equipped to do that. Like we're sitting here with 4 or 5 guys on a team. We're not going to be able to go tear down a next gen car and make chassis updates and stuff. I mean, it's just not realistic. So it's not just spend 500 grand or whatever the heck it is, get a next gen car. It's, well, are you staying current with the next gen car? What does it cost to repair it? Like, you're probably not going to go out there and just have a perfectly clean race. I mean, we've heard of guys that are dragging the carbon fiber underbody tray off the thing pretty much every race. And you're doing that because you're trying to get lower to the ground, make downforce. You miss it, you scrape it. Oh, okay, well, throw it away. Well, how much was that? I mean, I've heard insane stuff, $30,000, $50,000. And you go, I mean, an average purse in the Xfinity series is around 20, 25 grand for a race. So when you're not a charter car out there, you're going to get paid a little more than that for being out there. So like, forget paying for the tires, forget paying for the travel. Like if there's anything on the car that goes wrong, you are way, way, way upside down. So it just takes a level of money now that is really unapproachable for a lot of people.
So we have less than 10 minutes to go on this. So got to kind of get to this quick. So you said you'd like to see charters in all 3 series. So how would you implement that if you could, specifically in the Xfinity series?
Well, right off the bat, pick one. You don't get to have charters in every series. That's not how this works. Like we're trying to basically make each series feel different and protect the owners in the series, right? I mean, that's the idea of a charter, is guaranteed entry into the races, security for the owners, and now we have this thing that we can sell outside of just the assets of the team, right? And I apologize, guys. We're in a race shop here, and it gets a little loud. But you have other stuff that you can sell besides just a motor or a car. I don't understand how that fits into a Joe Gibbs Racing. All right, I'm going to use them as an example. It's an awesome program. Like, they have dominated our series for a really long period of time. This is not me chirping at Joe Gibbs. I don't understand how a charter system would work in that way, where you're basically rewarding a Cup team for bringing Cup resources to a lower level series and then saying that you're doing it to protect the owners. It's like, well, who are we protecting? Like, the people that need protecting is like Carl Long. Like, they're fine. Like, if that Xfinity team shut down tomorrow, Joe Gibbs is still a Cup level 4 charter organization, right? So the margins here are so much smaller that, to me, that's the protection. Like, the open teams in our series, if you want to say there's fewer charters and more open teams, great. I'd be down with that. Maybe 32 charters and 8 open teams. So now those Cup teams, when they come down here, it's for development, true development, because that's the challenge that I would make to you guys as reporters, is to go, here's just a fun question to just roll out there. Because all those Cup teams that race in our series, and I'm including Junior Motorsports in it, because they have a direct affiliation with Hendrick Motorsports. So all the 14 or 15 Cup cars that race in our series every weekend, if they say it's for development, how often does that driver that's in that Xfinity program go directly to the Cup team? If it's for development. Or a manufacturer of the same thing. Josh Berry left this year, left Junior Motorsports, went to Ford. So the money that Chevrolet spent and Junior Motorsports and all these partners, it was for Josh Berry's development to him to go to a Chevy in the Cup Series. Wait, no, he didn't. Went to a Ford. So other than Ty Gibbs, like, give me one. Because what happens is these guys get to this level and they just go, what's the best open seat up there in the Cup Series? I'm taking it. And that's it. So it's not development. It's a cash grab. That's all this is. they're able to charge way more money for their races from either funded drivers, sponsors, whatever it is. They have cup resources to bring to a lower level series. They absolutely destroy everybody else in it. We have no shot. We know that. It's 15 cars are really the ones trying to win the race. And then all of us are racing for 15th. And we occasionally do a little better, but at the same time, we know what it is. And to me, that shouldn't be protected. That doesn't do anything because we're not even getting to judge the drivers fairly. Like we make fun of ARCA at times, right, guys? Like we sit there and go, man, ARCA, it's tough. It's only 5 or 6 competitive cars. Well, look at the Xfinity series. When you allow cup participation, you're making it to where it's basically the A group and the B group. There are some tracks like road courses, short tracks, speedways. There's some places where we have a chance to go compete a little better. But overall, look at the owner standings and tell me who's the ones that are doing the best in the series. It's everybody with a cup team, pretty much. That's who does the best. It's whoever's spending the most money in every form of racing that's ever existed are the people that are doing the best. And it's the resources that they have. It's not just money. It's not me complaining about money. It's the resources that they have to bring to bear from manufacturers, development, more people, multiple years of being in it, affiliations, and other agreements. I mean, it's so much. And then on top of that, great people. And then on top of that, great drivers. And then on top of that, new cars. And then on top of that, sim time, development, research, so much that they're able to bring into the series, which drives the price up. And now we're in a series, guys, where we can't get hand-me-down cup stuff anymore. That doesn't exist. So I don't know what the future of that scale looks like, but as far as charter agreements are concerned, yeah, like they have been tremendously beneficial for the owners in the Cup Series. And that's what makes you ask the question, is that something that NASCAR actually wants? Do they want to help the owners? Or do they just want to take the approach that, like, we don't really care who the 38 cars are. We just know we're going to get 38 cars. So that's kind of been their stance for a really long period of time. That's why you didn't see like a big thing when the 78 Cup team shut down, like 2 years after winning a championship. Because they're like, it's fine. Somebody else will pop up. And that was the impression. But now with the charter agreements, that's just a lot murkier. And I don't know if they want to let that happen down here in the lower series. And then what does that look like with cup participation in lower series too? Like that would probably get a little weird.
You got a quick question, Jared?
I'll let you finish it, Daniel.
All right. So we got this new TV deal for the Xfinity series starting in a couple of years on the CW. How do you see that benefiting a team like yours? Have you gotten any details from NASCAR about how that will work in your favor, if at all?
No details. But I have heard through multiple sources that it is a better financial deal for the Xfinity series. It is exclusive to the Xfinity series, right? So we're not sharing that revenue with the other two series. And it seems like that's overall a benefit. I love the deal. Like, just truth be told, it was funny because everybody immediately hit me up where they announced it. I had 15 texts. I had Jeff Gluck texting me being like, what do you think? I was like, let me look into this. But I like the deal because we get the over-air network part. We get a bump in the revenue, which was important for the teams. Also, it feels like we get a little more flexibility with the schedule and the timing. NASCAR Productions is going to be involved. It's going to be on one network the whole time, national network. They want live programming. So like we're not going to be tied into these weirder time slots to me, right? Rain delays and stuff like that. They probably don't play as big of a factor. I mean, overall, I think it's a great step for the series. And I like the idea of bringing some of the production in-house and maybe adding more consistency to the production as opposed to splitting it across multiple networks and everything else. So I'm a big fan of the deal. I think it's going to be really good for the series.
I do have one more question. Joey Gase was he mentioned on Twitter, I mean, since they're going to Talladega this weekend, that it's easier for teams like yours to get sponsors to commit to a race like Talladega than to, one of the 6 road courses that you go to. So what, as briefly, as succinctly as you can you explain the reality of that? Why is it easier to get stuff for Talladega versus a road course?
I'd say because Talladega is Talladega, and it's an easy one. That's the easiest one to sell that we have all year.
Really?
this is what we're talking about markets, guys. I mean, a lot of this now, sponsorship wise, is market driven. And if it's not market driven, it's definitely driver driven when it comes to how they're going to spend their own sponsorship money or private money or however it is. Do you want to go to a track where you feel like you got a chance to win? Talladega, baby. I can tell you my team's got a chance to win, right? So it's a lot easier to sell on a small team than it is pretty much anything else that we do. Those are like the first races that everybody wants. And then everything else, they know that when we go to Texas, a top 15 is a good day for us, right? But you also have to be a certain caliber of driver to feel like, hey, I can do that. All right. But at Talladega, we've seen upset, surprise wins. We've, all over the place. So it's a race that invites hope and optimism. And on top of that, it's a great market. It's a great racetrack. It's fast. It's close. It's an easy one to sell.
All right. Well, Tommy, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. And good luck with the rest of the season and have fun in Mexico.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.